Except for Lotharingia, this map looks totally normal for 1590, right? But what if I tell you now that I don't just own what's under the Lotharingian flag? Right now, I own almost the entire European continent and the entire colonized New World. And I rule over all of these lands through the best subject type in game, personal unions. Emperor Clovis IV of Lotharingia also rules as King of Great Britain, King of Portugal and its 5 colonial nations, Tsar of Russia, King of Aragon, King of Castile with Brazil and South Africa, King of Denmark, Markgrave of Brandenburg and King of Prussia, Archduke of Austria, and the Duke of Saluzzo and Orleans. And all of these personal unions weren't some streamer luck or something like that. I had full control over everything that happened in order to PU all of these nations. Yes, you heard it right. I found the path to PU every Christian nation that you want to, and all of that without any randomness or luck at all. I'm the student and I present to you generic scripted unions. And while you can see the strategy already used on Orleans in the background, let me just explain real quick what exactly this is all about. First of all, it's generic because you can use this strategy as any nation to play as and for every nation you want to PU, if both of you and the nation are Christian, of course. And it is scripted because you can completely control the path to union with the nation you want to. And you saw already that I'm trying to PU Orleans as they have no heir right now. But to understand the strategy, you need to see the coalition map mode first, because on the coalition map mode you can see which nations I am bordering right now very clearly. And you can see that I am not bordering Aragon, as I fed that province that borders that from my land to my vassal Navarra. And on the eastern front I am bordering Milan and Switzerland, who are both republics of course, and then I have a long border around the HRE with several small former HRE countries. The HRE is dissolved. And that is relevant because I need to of course get the dynasty of the nation I want to PU. And I can achieve that by switching into the elective monarchy reform. But now you can see if I switch into the elective monarchy, because I was using the States General election system before from the stadtholder monarchy, I get this event now that you can see right now that gives me a new ruler because I abolished the States General system, which only happens if the statists were in power before, otherwise your monarch will just continue. But of course now with the elective monarchy I get another election event. Each time I get a new ruler, so also if I now click that event of the abolished ruler. And that means that I can now choose a ruler of the biggest neighboring country's dynasty, which is based on their development, Orleans. So now this is a scripted path to change my ruler to the De Valois dynasty in this case within the same day. And now I can simply royal marriage them, claim their throne to get a claim throne CB, and then declare war for the Orleanese throne, in which I can now make them my personal union, as you can see. And now comes already the second slightly different example, because while I was still in the Orleans war, I saw that Aragon had now no heir. But of course, as I said, I'm not bordering Aragon right now, but I can of course simply go to my subject Navarra right now that has a border with Aragon and then seize a province on the border with Aragon, which by the way also works while you are at war. And now I border Aragon. And now what I can do is I can switch into the States General system again, which by base, if it's 0 on the balance, the status are in power anyways. And that means if I switch now back to the elective monarchy again, but very important, wait 1 month before that to update the dynasty trigger of the election event, then I get the same 2 events again. So first the abolished event, then the elective monarchy event, where I can now again choose a ruler of the biggest neighbor's dynasty, which is Aragon's in this case. And by the way, you can also see that each time I change my ruler, of course, I get an additional chance to inherit existing PUs as the Palatinate and Saxony in this case. Anyways, now I can royal marriage Aragon, claim their throne, and in the meantime peace out Orleans as I'm not changing my ruler now, and then declare the war for the Aragonese throne after only 2 months. So now that you just saw 2 examples how to do it with the Dutch Tier 1 Stadtholder Monarchy reform, let me just show you how you can do it literally with only the generic reforms, so with no culture-based reforms, because of course there is a Tier 6 reform that is called States General, okay? And that is basically exactly the same mechanic as the Dutch one has. Of course, it's on tier 6, so you need to reach that at some point. But what you can do then, you can see right now that I have a Russia over here again that has no heir. And I have again a subject of Estonia set up that borders Russia over here. So I can do the same thing as you already saw with Aragon. I can seize land so that I border Russia. I can wait 1 month to update the dynasty trigger of the elective monarchy. And now I can switch to the States General reform. But first of all, it is exclusive with the elective monarchy reform, which means that I have to spend 50 reform progress to get out of that, to autocracy, for example. Then I can choose the States General for another 50 reform progress. And then I can immediately, as the statists are in power, of course, I can immediately switch back to the other reform of this tier for another 50 reform progress, get this event over here, and before I click that, I can now switch back into the elective monarchy. 1 day pass just to make sure that it actually updates over here, and then I can click this event and get the election of a new ruler event from the elective monarchy, where I can now choose the biggest neighbor's dynasty, which is in this case Sibirsky of Russia. So I can just take the dynasty of Russia over here, royal marriage, claim their throne, and declare war on Russia with even a truce break right now. They are Orthodox, it doesn't really matter. So I can just declare war on them and take the union with Russia again. And all of that without any culture-based reforms, okay? The thing is, I just spent 200 reform progress, okay? That seems to be a lot, but think about it. I'm right now making almost 1.8 reform progress per month. You can really stack those modifiers up with Groundland, with the tier 3 reform over here, with monuments such as the Doge's Palace over here. So you can really stack those modifiers up. And this right now means that I can do the same thing every 9 years. Okay, I only need 9 years to get 200 reform progress. And if you think about it, that I can literally do a scripted personal union on a nation, for example Denmark, I prepared Denmark over here as well, that I can do a scripted personal union every 9 years. on such huge countries like Russia, Denmark, Spain, I've already got France, England, and Portugal. Then you notice that 200 reform progress or 9 years of reform progress is totally worth it. And honestly, it's basically no cost for the reward that you get. But of course, if you have the Dutch tier 1 reform, it only costs you 100 reform progress, so only half of that. You can do it twice as often, therefore. Or you could even switch out of the culture to get rid of that cultural reform, which will then cost you Diplo points. This little amount of reform progress is literally the entire price you have to pay, nothing else. So while I was still in the war with Aragon for the PU, I noticed that Austria had no heir. But as I had no border with them, I needed to use a little trick where I saw that Austria still had a core on a province that I personally owned myself. So I just declared war on Brittany because they were an easy target, and I offered them that I would give back that core to Austria in the peace deal. And now that I boarded Austria, I could simply do the same thing as I did before twice already, switch out of the States General reform into the elective monarchy, take the von Habsburg dynasty on my throne, royal marriage Austria, claim their throne, and declare the war. And then I could peace out Aragon, of course, as I'm not changing my ruler again to bring them to positive relations. And then a little while later, the exact same thing happened with Saluzzo, and I swear this is not lucky. And I literally didn't save scum a single time in this entire campaign. And I can guarantee you that you will experience the exact same dynamic in your games as well. The Christian monarchies in EU4 are really often without an heir. You just have to look on the info of disputed successions on the top of the screen to see who would be worth to go for a scripted PU. Of course, like a 2-province minor wouldn't be worth it, right? And then in terms of the really big countries like Aragon, Russia, Denmark that you really want to PU badly, basically, I already prepared a border via a vassal that you're going to see in a second, and I marked them as country of interest so that I got a notification each time their ruler changed or if they entered a regency, so that I didn't miss a single opportunity in this game to PU a nation that I want to PU. And talking about regencies, let me just explain the special case of regencies to you in the example of Russia in this game. You can see here that I got notified earlier that Russia was in a regency, and you can always see the exact date on when their regency ends if you hover over their regency ruler. Now you see, the thing with regencies is that when they end, there is literally a 50-50 chance for the new ruler to already have an heir or to not have an heir when he's getting to the throne. So you could theoretically save scum this 100% reliably if you save the game before that, as you know the exact date, of course. But even if you don't, it means that it only takes you 2 regencies on average to PU exactly that country that you plan to PU. And you probably know from your games that the AI falls into regencies very often. And then when you see that, you can easily prepare the border with them, you can prepare the war to PU them, and then you can instantly go in when they have no heir. But now, as I know that a huge Russia PU is always a very special thing, so before we go into another PU variant with Portugal, enjoy the subjugation of the Tsar. And now, to not let this variant be forgotten, you can still spread your dynasty, which in this case Van Oranje, from the Dutch stadtholder monarchy, to other nations as usual, and you can PU them the normal way, as I did here with Portugal, and you can also just roll marriage nations without an heir to PU them through a normal succession war, for example. So just because you can do these scripted unions with this strategy now, you shouldn't forget about these other mechanics, as in combination this lets you PU all of Europe within just a few decades, as you just saw in this game. So for the record, in this game I got Portugal and Castile through a normal dynasty spread, and Prussia through a succession war. Brandenburg and Great Britain were missions, and then Russia, Aragon, Austria, Denmark, Orleans and Saluzzo were done through the scripted unions tactic. So the combination is still key. And while you see the last scripted union of Denmark in the background, let me just ask you, how insane, on a scale from 1 to 10, do you think will this tactic change the European game dynamic for you? Let me know in the comments. And we are going to see, as always, on the next Monday.